Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Women Have Needs Too by LindaQ TV. Today, we are with Shannon Rollins, and I'm going to cheat because I don't want to miss anything here. But Shannon Rollins is the founder of performance and wellness coach of LivWell Solutions, located in Orlando. Shannon has 8 years of experience helping men and women improve their mental health and emotional resiliency through one-on-one coaching, group wellness programs, and courses. Her passion is helping business professionals adopt mindful habits so they can alleviate stress and fatigue in their daily lives. Today, we're going to talk about confidence and courage in your life. And you better hang around to the end because she's going to give a few tips on how you can increase your courage and confidence. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so good to have you here. And let's talk about what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited to be here. This is honestly my favorite topic of all time. I know we've talked about this a lot, but really with what I do in general in my business, I really work with people one-on-one, and most of the people who come to me, most business professionals who come to me, I love this topic so much because it usually boils down to your confidence level. It usually boils down to how you feel about yourself. And so usually what I do in my business is I work one-on-one, and we really break down the barriers, get to the bottom of the beliefs, of your beliefs about yourself, and then how to transform that, because then in return you're going to have that emotional resiliency that's built up whenever your boss critiques your work, or something happens, or someone doesn't call you back, or your dating life isn't going so well. Who knows? It could be personal or professional, and it just makes such a huge difference. So I really love to help people with their mental wellness in general, with one-on-one or group coaching and workshops as well.
Wonderful. Now, are you saying that every decision we make, not every decision, but in general, every decision we make is based on our confidence level?
Well, and that's a really good question. The best way that I could describe it is that our beliefs really drive us. They drive our beliefs about ourselves, because really what your self-confidence is, it's your evaluation. Like, if we think of it in work terms, that evaluation piece, you go sit down with your boss and they're evaluating you. How are you evaluating yourself? What's your inner picture, your inner portrait? And there's so many different categories too of how you evaluate you as a person, like your true self.
Self-evaluation. So self-confidence equals your self-evaluation.
Yes.
And could it change daily?
Yeah. So there's I'm loving these questions. You're already throwing them all out there. Oh my gosh. Actually, if you want to throw up the slide, the 2 kinds of self-esteem slide, it really also explains it. There's 2 types usually of self-esteem, and this kind of answers your question. There's the situational self-esteem, and that is your different situations that you're having. It could be an acute thing. Let's just say that someone is killing it. They feel so good about themselves in dating. Like, let's just say they are the ladies' man or opposite. I don't know what the woman would, something like that. But then you kind of flip the script on that, and you see them in the workplace, or you see them standing in front of a group of people giving a presentation, and they look like a totally different person, right? So that's that situation.
So it's situational.
It's situational. It depends. And it's based on so many different factors. It's based on your beliefs about that situation. Is it aligned with your values? It's based around, have you had a bad experience of public speaking in the past? Did you get laughed at when you were in school?
I'm going to give a perfect example. Yeah. I'm going to give a perfect example of that, where one person could feel very confident when they're around their family because it's a very safe space for them. And then their best friend could feel very self-conscious around their own family because of their family situation, whatever has happened in the past. And it could be a daily thing as well. But different situations call for different patterns in our confidence. And I love that. Do we have that slide? We're going to try to get that slide up for you.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's the third one down.
oh, yeah, the third one down if you can find it. So what kind of tips are we going to, is this tip time yet for self-confidence? Are we doing that?
We can go into tips. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to touch on too is that other type of self-esteem, that's your characterological self-esteem.
The what? Say it again.
It's called characterological. So it's from a character standpoint, it is that type of self-esteem that's to your core. Like, so that's more of not an up and down. That's that stagnant. I'm not good enough. I don't bring value.
Right.
XYZ. Those
Your
are
overall view of yourself.
Yep, that's like that bigger picture, and that feeds into situational. And not only that, it depends on if you've experienced something before, because like you said, if I was like sitting in your seat right now and trying to run your show, I would be having anxiety. I would have sweaty palms, and I'd be like, what am I doing? I'm not confident because I haven't done it before, right?
But you're doing it from right over there.
Well, I know, but if I was you, but you could be, you're sitting there right now and you're just rolling with it and you're like, hey, this is something that I'm used to. I have some high self-esteem with this, but it's one of those things where it can always be changed. And that's where we can go into the tips too. I just thought it was so important for us to talk about this topic because it does change with failure and it does change with this year. And
I was just going to say, this year has
rocked us.
Yeah, so let's address that. So these people who had high-paying jobs or businesses that were like going gangbusters, and 2020 was going to be the year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What can we say to them? You know, some of them still don't have jobs. Some of them are still looking for jobs. Some of them don't know where they're going to look for their next job. And some of them are waiting for their other job to come back as an opportunity for them to go back to that same position. I mean, because let's just face it, a lot of us are happy with our jobs. We like what we do. We're there for a reason. For other people, it gives them an opportunity to go do something that they really have been dying to do. Like me, I mean, I loved my job, but this was my passion, is helping women, helping people live their best life. So that's what our TV show is all about. That's what Women Have Needs Too by LindaQ is all about. It's about helping women live their fullest life. Okay? So, thank you. So, how do we encapsulate that from what they've gone through this year and get to ground zero? I mean, they're at ground zero in their career, but let's talk about ground zero. And I've painted the picture before of a blank canvas. Okay, you have a blank canvas. What would the rest of your life look like if you could do something today to benefit that? To propel it, to go into what you envision as your perfect life. What can you do? Let's do this. I mean, I know what I did, but it's not the same for everybody. I know we're going to have to generalize because it's going to be different for everybody, but what are the general steps?
Yeah, I mean, I love that question so much because I know we've talked before about this year and finding those silver linings. And the biggest one that I found with this year is I've had so many women come to me and say, I want to start my own business or I want to do
Beautiful.
XYZ. This has forced us all in a way that there's negatives to it, but in a way that we can stop and look at ourselves and look at the world around us and ask ourselves, is this truly what I want with my life?
Right.
And it's forced everyone to stop and everyone to ask ourselves that question. And you have just been given an out to go a different direction if you want to go a different direction.
It's true.
Yeah, and I love the blank canvas is such a perfect example because what we've done is we have really, and what we do and how I broke out of it too, is we've really lived upon these values that were instilled in us as children, right? Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, X, Y, Z. But
Right.
then we don't feel like we're comfortable in our own skin. We don't feel like we're living our truth. And so it's a perfect opportunity to just stop for a moment,
Yes.
maybe meditate on it and just pause and be, because when you're, and I know this isn't a straightforward answer,
No,
but
it's
I
okay.
promise
It's
there's a
good.
reason. When you pause and you're just being, your answers, your true answers are going to come to you. If you're just doing all the time and running around, I should be getting a job, I should be looking for this and that. And I know it's difficult with the stress if you're unemployed and if you have anxiety and you're not sleeping because you don't know if you're going to put food on the table. But there is always a bigger reason, and you're going to be okay. And the other thing I wanted to add to that too is, when you mentioned the blank canvas, is a lot of us have taken this year and based a belief on ourselves over something that was not our fault. like,
Exactly. That
we're
is so
taking
true.
a pandemic and we're saying, man, because of the pandemic, and it really is because of the pandemic, but the way our brain works, I'm not a good business person.
Right.
Or I'm so bad at this, or I can't believe I didn't get that job interview. And we're taking on the pandemic and just saying that.
I'm so glad you pointed that out, because where people had this confidence level on, let's just say, March 1st, and everything was fine and dandy and everything's going great, and all of a sudden something that was totally out of our control takes place, and instead of keeping that same confidence level, something happens, because our world got shaken. And even put 2020 aside. Let's put 2020 aside, and let's just say anything can come along any day or time and shake our world. A car accident.
Yeah.
Somebody close to us dying. Things get shaken up. Life is not perfect, everybody. I mean, people know this, right? But we have to, introspect, right? And look into ourselves at these moments, and sometimes this is longer than a moment, but we do, if we just look at it as a moment, that we can look inside. And I like to say, let's look at all the good things, the things that we are good at. Let's look at all the positives about myself, my life, my world, my friends, my family, whatever, all the positives, okay? Because to me, the negatives don't count, all right? Now, do I need to work on some of my negatives? Yes, and I'm going to be working on them, and I am working on them. But that doesn't wash away the positive stuff. That doesn't wash away the good. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let 2020 wipe out all the good.
You're giving me goosebumps. No, you were on, and I'm so happy that you bring that up. I don't know if you can bring up the slide where it has the panic zone and the uncomfortable zone, but you
if they
had
can't bring it
mentioned,
up now, we'll get it up. So yes,
Perfect.
can you bring
Yeah.
up the panic zone?
What we ideally do as humans, all of us, me, you, everyone, we are so confident when we're in our little bubble. We're in this little circle and we're just bebopping around. We're in our house, or wherever you're the most confident. Everyone's different.
Right.
We're so confident in this little bubble. And then you have this little outer sphere. I call it the uncomfy zone, but you could call it the uncomfortable zone.
The
Uncomfy zone.
uncomfy zone.
The uncomfy
I love
zone.
it. So we have the comfort zone, and then we have the uncomfy zone. I love it.
Yeah. And that's when maybe you're just doing a presentation at work or whatever. Now, right now, we're in the panic zone. That's like that red, and we're all just freaking out. We're in that panic zone moment. But the panic zone moment, and you mentioned resiliency, and I love that. It's like a muscle. You would never be strong or resilient if we didn't go through these times. I promise you,
Right.
everyone listening to this, that 5 years from now, you're going to be like, man, I learned a lot about myself in 2020. I learned what I needed to work on in 2020. And it's a blessing at the same time that we all, we've been hit down a couple times this year, right? So
bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, but it's like each time you're just like, you know what? I learned something about myself then, and it doesn't define who you are as a person. This stuff is happening to us, and it's not who we are.
It does
and
not define us. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the tips on how to get from, let's just say, okay, so we're in our comfy zone, and then we get into our uncomfy zone, and then we're in panic zone. How do we go from panic to back to comfortable? But I want to be clear here in my vision that your comfort zone to panic zone is not necessarily going back to that same comfort zone. It's going from comfy to uncomfy to panic to a different comfort zone. Is that right?
Yeah, so if you imagine you're in the panic zone right now, when you go back to your uncomfy zone, that's technically your comfort zone now. It's kind of grown, the bubble's grown. So each time you go through.
I'm seeing the picture. So your comfort zone went from here into your uncomfy zone because you had to go into panic in order to expand your comfort zone.
You have to grow into it, right? You grow into these moments, and like you mentioned gratefulness earlier, and that's my favorite practice is gratefulness. You learn to really cherish those positive things, but if you didn't go through these times, would you really cherish those positive things? If you had everything you could ever ask for, right?
Right.
How would we actually see those things? They would just be mediocre things.
Oh gosh, I hope I never get that way. I wake up every morning grateful. I just look out my window.
I love it.
I have a great view, and I wake up every morning very thankful. I'm thankful for the family that I have, the friends that I have, an amazing husband, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to meet people like you, Shannon.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. That, have that ability to help people get out of their comfort zone and find that comfort zone and give them the courage. So let's talk about how do we do that? How do we get people to understand that this is not defining, this panic is not defining them, and that their core being is good, and let's take it to the next level? How do we do that?
I always like to say if you want to throw up the tips, there's a tip slide too that I have 5 tips on there.
Oh, yes.
And there's so many different tips that we could go through, but these are my favorites, my personal favorites that I've worked with my clients on. That if you look outside and look at nature and the entire world and how the world works, everything is colored differently. Everything looks different. An elephant is different from a ladybug. So we all need to stop accepting the fact that we should be the same. First of all, the other thing. Very good. Yeah. Well, the other thing.
Because I will never look like you, Shannon, because you're absolutely beautiful. I will never look like you, and I probably won't ever have the same talents that you have. I'll have different talents. I can have talents that measure up to your talents, but they're not going to be the same talents.
And what we all do is we all look around, and I've been so guilty of this in the past. We look around and say, I wish I had this and I wish I had that. Yeah. And that kind of leads us to our first tip is like, you've got to know what your unique gifts are. You don't have to be like me, Shannon. You don't have to be like Linda. Like you are going to be your best self if you're flexing your unique gifts. And a lot of people say to me, Shannon, I don't even know. Ask people who know you. You could actually take all the personality tests out there, but I always just love do an analysis of your past. What have you been complimented on?
Yeah.
And then also ask your coworkers,
maybe don't ask your
parents.
They'll tell you the truth. Ask people who will tell you the truth.
Yes. Good point. Ask people who will tell you the truth and that are just not trying to blow smoke, and they'll tell you. And it's funny because in my workshops that I do, one of the exercises is I have people put half of like an easel pad on their back, and everyone walks around and writes on their back what their strengths are. And at the end, they take it off and they look at it, and everyone's like, whoa, I had no idea.
Love
and
it.
Usually everyone writes the same thing.
I love it.
And so, and not only that, once you know your personal gifts, you got to act on them.
Yeah.
So if you're in a job where you are a vibrant people person and they have you in an office pushing numbers, and you've always kind of known that something, yeah, right.
I'm not that
Me too.
person.
Me too. Yeah. And you've always kind of known that there's friction there.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you're not flexing your unique gifts, and you were put on this earth to
I love
flex your unique gifts. So that's probably my favorite, because that's going to boost your self-esteem.
I love it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And really the other thing is uncovering why you're doing something, because that kind of pushes through that resiliency piece of if you get knocked down, you just pause for a moment, put your hand on your heart, and just say, hey, I just got to give myself a little bit of a reminder here.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
I like that.
And it's just going to keep you going.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And then what are some of the other tips?
Yeah. So the other one, this is a one that is really important because it happens often. We got to keep the promises that we make to ourselves. So,
oh, wow, that is huge.
All my New Year's resolution peeps out there, every single time, unless you're 100% sure, if it's a should, make sure that your why is true to you, because if you don't fall through with what you say you're going to do, then you're automatically lowering your self-belief in being able to accomplish something.
Can I give an analogy here?
Absolutely. Go for it.
So a couple years ago, I was seeing a nutritionist, and she said, I made the comment to her about walking. I have a walking partner. And she said, well, what happens if that walking partner doesn't show up? Do you still go walk? And I'm like, well, usually no. I usually stay in bed. But you have to be accountable to yourself. I mean, it's important to I think it's important to be accountable to others. And she said, why are you walking? You're not walking for her, you're walking for yourself. So why would you let yourself down? And that's big. You know, why let yourself down? So keeping your promises to yourself are huge. It's a huge deal. And I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and I love that story and that analogy, because it's true. We usually, either as society or our parents or the nutritionist or health gurus or whoever, and putting all this information out on how you should act, how you should behave, how you should eat, how you should sleep. And until you know why your true reason for doing it is, your true why. And it always goes back. I mean, Simon Sinek, I mean, the why stuff, and it always gets brought up because it works. Like because people have a why, but they're not connected to it. They're not really connecting to it every single day, especially when you get that bad thing that happens.
All right, so we're going to need to wrap this up, but I wanted to ask you something. What about the person who doesn't know their why?
That is a really good question. So a person who doesn't know their why, if they are a meditator, which they might not be, I talk about meditation all the time, but ideally as humans, we will get something done because of other people versus ourselves. We always, especially women, everyone else goes before.
True.
And I teach so much on self-care, because you got to fill your cup before you fill other people's cups. And so if you cannot come up with the why, it's probably a should. And it might not be. It might just be that you're not being honest with yourself. It's really funny. I know we have to wrap this up. It's really funny because that question reminded me of a client that I had in the past a couple years ago. And it took her so long to admit that she just wanted to look sexy.
Oh.
And I said, it took that long to connect. And I said, why did it take you that long to admit that was your why? And she's like, I feel guilty. I feel like it should be because I want to be energized. I said, no, your why is unique to you. Like, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going? Because that is going to lead to all this goodness down the road anyway. True. So just being true to that, writing it down. And if you don't know 100%, just taking that time, you might not know right away. Yes. But asking yourself, is this a should as well? Yeah.
I like that. So what, are there more tips? Because
the last we already touched on it, and it was just reflecting on your success. Okay. Reflecting on your life and everything that you've done in the past. If you have a bad day and you're feeling cruddy, and let's just say you got reprimanded by your boss, or your launch or your sales tanked this month, or whatever the case is, looking back, just taking moments saying, what have I accomplished in the past year?
Right.
And when you write it down, I am so passionate about saying write things down, because when you actually get them on paper and you look at them, you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that much in a year.
I love it.
So that helps as well.
I love it. That is so great. So much good information. And we're going to have to talk to you again, because there's so many things that we have to learn from you. I appreciate you, Shannon, so much. And is there any last thing that you would like to say to how do the viewers reach you if they would like to talk with you and further about anything that you can help them with?
Yeah, you could go to my website, shannonrollins.com, and then all my social media pages are also at Shannon P. Rollins. And shoot me an email, shoot me a message if you just have a question or just want to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn too, and I'm always just so happy to build relationships with people. Yes. Because we're all in this together, right?
Yes, we are. Together. That's the whole idea. We have each other for a reason. So
exactly.
God could have created a planet with just one person, but he didn't.
That would be so boring.
It would. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today. And make sure you visit shannonrollins.com. And do you have a hashtag, Shannon?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Well, we're going to get you one. We're going to get you one. Start it now. Hashtag Shannon Rollins.
Yeah, I love it.
Good.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And for you viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you received some good information today from Shannon. And visit us at womenhaveneeds2.com. Check out our shirts. We have another shirt coming up soon that we're going to be doing for pre-sale. Hello. Darn it. Yes, I'm going to mention it right now. There's a new shirt coming out for the winter season, and it's Women Have Needs Too. Right now, I Need to Believe. We're going to show you a front and a back screenshot of this, and we're taking pre-sales right now. So please join us at Women Have Needs Too and check it out. And there are a lot more cute shirts coming out too as well. A portion of all of our proceeds goes to an organization called Created, and they fight human trafficking in the Tampa Bay area. Tampa Bay happens to be third in the country for human trafficking, and so it's a great cause. And I hope you join us, and thank you again, Shannon, and have a great day. And I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. Have a great day.